spiritual awakening to inspire your personal enlightened journey. I'm your host, Megan Mary, international best-selling metaphysical author and founder of Inner Realms Publishing. Let's bring in the light. Welcome. Today, my guest is Lauren Courtney. She is a master energy healer, Holy Fire World Peace Karuna Reiki master and teacher, sound healer, and author of Glow Up Your Chakras, From Medicated to Meditated. After a decade of burnout and overachievement in the culinary and wellness worlds, Lauren turned inward to heal the unprocessed emotions and nervous system patterns that fueled her hustle. Today, she helps high performers, creatives, and seekers become their own greatest healer, blending Holy Fire Reiki, somatic and breathwork practices, Kundalini yoga, and intuitive energetic rewiring. Her work guides people to break lifelong loops around success, worthiness, and self-trust so they can live with more alignment, ease, and magnetic abundance. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you for having me. It's always so interesting to hear the bio back.
Yeah. And there's a lot about that I like. I love the subtitle to your book, and the ending, the alignment, ease, and abundance is very much in alignment with what I talk about with authenticity, alignment, and abundance. So lots
Amazing.
of
Yeah,
synchronicities going on there.
beautiful.
So my first question is going to be, what does enlightenment mean to you?
Oh, I love that question. Enlightenment for me, I guess the best way I could describe it is when I went through my spiritual awakening a few years ago and woke up to my mediumship, I had this inner knowing that this is my last time on earth. And what does that mean? And I've kind of lived having that knowing, what does that mean for this life if I am meant to not come back again? And for me, it really is about living in my purpose, living in my truth, and knowing that heaven on earth exists. It's not that I have to ascend and leave this dimension to access that level of enlightenment, but I can bring that enlightenment to myself and to others at this time right now.
Very true. Spoken very well. Yes. It's it's something that we are here to achieve.
Yeah,
And it's really part of the reason that I started this podcast
I
was
love that.
to share the enlightened experiences that other women have had. And they are all very different. So now I'm going to give you an opportunity to share your story of spiritual awakening and how you came to do the work that you're doing out in the world now.
Yeah. So I believe a spiritual awakening, now looking back on my awakening, is so multi-layered. And it's like there's, little speed bumps along the way almost. And then you hit that huge bump and you're like, oh, I can't go backwards anymore. So a few of the little speed bumps that brought me in that direction. I was working in corporate America, had this inner knowing that I was here to help people heal, didn't know what that meant. I was working in a talent agency at the time. I thought, oh my God, I have the coolest life. I work with athletes, I work with celebrities, but I needed to actually have surgery. I had 3 jaw surgeries starting when I was 17 years old. Again, at about 20 years old, and at 24, I had to have my jaw broken and rubber banded shut for 8 weeks. And this is all due to chronic pain, which I talk about more in my book, so I won't go all into it or we'll be here all day. But essentially, that was kind of the start of my awakening. I went through that surgery and realized I'm not actually happy at work because I was out of the office and connected unknowingly to my energy and not the energy of everyone else. And as an empath, I was just absorbing without understanding. So that was kind of step one. Step two, I got a new job, thought this is the answer, 9 to 5. Nothing at the time in New York City. I don't think anything really is 9 to 5. But that was the leap. And that's when I started hearing this inner knowing you're here to help people heal. I ended up, God intervened. I broke my foot. It was the foot out of the door to corporate America. I never went back to a corporate job. I'd already started a blog about food. And that blog ultimately took me to my first position outside of corporate America, which was working as a private chef for clients recovering from food, drug, and alcohol addiction. So that was unknowingly the start of me healing myself. And then from there, my best friend and first love passed away. It will be 9.5 years. And the day he crossed over, he started communicating with me. I didn't realize I had been preparing for that moment. And there were speed bumps, other ones in between that I won't get all into those, but essentially that was the biggest moment for me. And there was no going back because I knew so deeply in my heart that he was communicating with me. And at the time I was 32, he would have been 36. And I couldn't accept that life just ended there in the same way I could when my grandparents had passed who were older. It was just something I was ready.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very powerful story. And I love the synchronicities about how you got an injury. It wasn't really like a conscious decision, but then it became one. And that your working as a chef really was giving back to the people who had been through what you had been through.
Yeah.
And so that's very interesting to me. And I personally love that intermingling of nature with healing because I'm a big proponent of let the food be thy medicine. And I myself am certified in plant-based nutrition. And so I have a strong appreciation for the spiritual nature of food, actually.
Yeah. It's a part of the book. Initially, Glow Up Your Chakras was going to be a cookbook. That's the direction I thought it was going. It was a chakra healing cookbook.
I like that.
And the deeper I went into my journey, it turned into memoir meets chakra healing. And section 3 is recipes. And I talk about how to eat for your intuition and the ways to really feed your energy centers. Because I went to school to be a holistic health coach and I studied hundreds of dietary theories. And the thing is, there's going to be a different diet all the time. I was talking to someone earlier who was saying she got really into the protein thing because as you get older, you need more protein. But her body was actually saying, no, I don't want this. Why are you putting so much of this in me? And she had to come back to her intuition and knowing, hey, my body will tell me exactly what I need. Everything else is a lot of noise that I'm consuming, and I'm having trouble digesting that noise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very difficult nowadays to find that right way of eating. So many people struggle with that. And I think it's really interesting when we start talking about the intuition and listening to the body, that obviously we feel that we have to eat several times a day, but many times we're just operating on autopilot
Yeah.
or we are going by convenience or other things like that. And it takes a lot of conscious effort to set up that your standards are actually nourishing and what your body needs. If you're on that autopilot, that's fine. But if you haven't set that up to begin with, then you could totally be on the wrong course and just this cyclical loop.
Absolutely. Even like today, for example, I knew I was doing a lot of channeling today. So when I woke up, I was like, I want bone broth, and then I want to make myself a big blue lotus and rose petal tea. So I'm connected to my crown and my heart while I'm channeling, and I'll eat dinner later and I'll make sure to nourish myself. But it's like I wasn't. intermittent fasting, because then I'm labeling it something that's not true. I was simply nourishing my crown chakra and nourishing my throat chakra, which are lighter foods that allow me, right, to be in more of that enlightenment as opposed to the embodiment. And it's knowing, when do I be enlightened? When do I be embodied? And, always we want to be embodied, but have that ability to access the higher chakras.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard theories too that the more we step into this awakened state, the less our body actually needs
That's
in
how I
terms
feel
of,
all the time.
yeah, in terms of that. So I like that it was going to be originally a cookbook. I really like this. And I didn't get to that part, obviously. So that's a nice surprise. W- Talk about for the listeners who might say, what are they talking about? Chakras. What is that? Let's
So
start there.
yeah, so chakras are our energy centers. I almost like to see them as light switches or a wheel that's spinning or a light switch with a dimmer up and down. But essentially, we have many more than seven chakras, but I'll touch on the main seven, beginning with the root, which is located at the base of our spine, which is about safety, security. It's where our ancestral stuff is held, it's where our money wounds are held. And that's really because ages 0 through 7 is when the root chakra is really formed. So when our subconscious is being formed, that's all stored in the root chakra. And then moving up, we have the sacral chakra below the belly button, which is all about creativity, sensuality, sexuality, birthing ideas, birthing projects. And we move up to the solar plexus, our power center, which I always see as this like yellow Care Bear, just like shining sunshine out into the world. But with that, when we're not feeling that sunshine energy, there might be cords, connections, energy that pulls on our own power. And we can see this coming back to food with someone that might have dis-ease, any gut health issues. Often it stems from something like giving your power away in situations. And we move up to the heart chakra, which is all about compassion, unconditional love, first, of course, for self, and then, of course, unconditional love for others. Coming up to the throat chakra, our voice, the ability to speak and feel safe, which I also find is so directly connected to that sacral chakra and feeling safe in your body and in your sensuality and in your truth and creative energy to be able to speak your voice. So often, when one chakra is imbalanced, it usually takes another one a little offline with it. And then we come up to the third eye, which is our intuition, our vision, whether it be inward or outward. And of course, our crown at the top of the head, which is our connection to source, connection to God, connection to whatever that is for you. I simply connect right to God. That's what feels the best to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you for that explanation because I know some people, you never know, who might be listening, might not be familiar with them. And speaking of dis-ease, yes, I talk about that a lot on this podcast, but a little bit of a preview for everybody that my third book that has come out this month, The Dream Dimensions, talks about dis-ease and chronic illness. And there's also something to do with chakras, but I can't reveal too much, because there's
I'm gonna
seven
have to get a
riddles.
copy.
Seven riddles. Yes. So I really enjoy, I'm actually in the process of studying for my PhD in metaphysical sciences. And one of the concentration areas that I think I may go into is combining the culinary with the spiritual. So even though I didn't know that that was going to be our conversation today, I'm tickled that it is because that's definitely something that I think is left out of a lot of people's spiritual practice.
Absolutely. I was making myself dinner before we got on this call. And even when I'm just stirring, I was stirring something in a pot. And for me, I'll put Reiki into it because I work with the Reiki symbols, or I'll put an intention into it or a mantra into it and make sure that I'm swirling it in the clockwise direction to infuse that energy into the food. And it's those little things, and I talk about that a bit in the book. It's those little things. In the book, I compare it to an artist, right? I think people get really overwhelmed with the idea of cooking. Before I was a chef, I always say the best dish I made was reservations. Like I made the best reservations. I knew how to do that with ease. And then I started cooking when I was in nutrition school to understand the dietary theories. I wanted to learn them all, and I'm a very visual, hands-on learner. And I realized that I had to break through my own fears of cooking, like, oh, I don't want to make a mess. I don't this and that, right? And those were my own childhood things of being told, you know what, why don't you just set the table? I'll take care of dinner. So I never felt that I had those skills. So I got to teach them. So in the book, I kind of compare it to an artist, right? We've got an Andy Warhol, we've got a Van Gogh. Their art is so different and so beautiful. So, I could give you a recipe and do the same recipe. And while we might have the same ingredients, it might look totally different. And to me, that's the beauty of cooking is you get to express your art on a plate. So I compare the food and going to shop as like paints and then you come home and your plate is your canvas and your pots and your pans and your knives. Those are your brushes. So, it's an opportunity to play and create as opposed to, oh my God, I'm so stressed and I still have to eat dinner. Like, what a gift that you get to slow down and eat dinner.
If you are enjoying my podcast and are intrigued by dreams and stories of spiritual awakening, I would like to personally invite you to explore my international best-selling metaphysical trilogy, Witches of Maple Hollow. Like a mystical fairy tale, these fall-themed mysteries weave cozy supernatural fantasy into enchanting tales of magic and self-discovery. Start with Book 1, The Dream Haunters. The Book Life Prize calls it packed to the brim with surprise portals, ancient traditions, and dream worlds. Then dive into the elusive nature of reality in the Dream Mirrors. And finally, unravel ancestral riddles beyond time and space in the Dream Dimensions. Get your exclusive signed copies today at meganmary.com. Stop by the store while you're there and grab your dream journals, cozy blankets, pillows, candles, and more. And don't forget, they also are available in audiobook. Come visit me in Maple Hollow. Mm-hmm. I love the metaphor of cooking as painting. And also once you create that masterpiece, you get to share it with others. And it has that infused intention in it too. And there's something very meditative about cooking, especially if you're spending an afternoon creating food for the week. I do miss doing that. I've been so busy with my books, I have not been able to do that. But soup season's coming up, so I'm very much looking forward to.
I find when writing a book, I was very in my crown chakra for quite some time. It was those lighter, brothy foods, or a matcha and the things that were keeping me up here.
Yeah. So eh, tell me a little bit more about your mediumship and how that appeared, and if you've had any experiences in the dream world.
So my mediumship appeared quite literally the day my friend passed away. I found out about his death that morning. And that afternoon, I was standing, it was a July 4th weekend. I was away with girlfriends. They were like, you have to eat. Like, you need to get out of this house and we need to get you food. And we were standing in a pizza place and I was waiting for a salad. And the place was crowded. And I was just like, what am I doing here? I should go back home. And all of a sudden, I heard it was like the radio dial changed. And this only 9.5 years ago, like you just press a button. Like it wasn't that long ago. And it was like I heard the dial change, and all of a sudden, the song changed from whatever it was to Eminem, Hi, My Name Is. And I was like, oh my God, this is Jeff. We used to go to every Eminem concert together. Like that was one of our things. And as the song came on, the whole left side of my body was just covered in what I now call angel bumps. And I just knew he was there. And I knew it wasn't a question. I also knew that I didn't want to tell my girlfriends that were standing next to me, like, hey, I think Jeff's here, because I didn't understand that. I had never experienced something like that knowingly before. There were signs, but I wasn't yet ready to open the door until that moment. So that's how it started for me. And for that next week, the I would turn this radio on and a song that didn't even belong on that station, that was one of our songs, was coming on the radio. So it started that way. And then I moved out to LA. I found Reiki initially, a Sui Reiki. I was living in New York and left New York, moved out to LA and found Holy Fire Reiki, which is what I practice now. And about a week after that Reiki training, crows were speaking to me on the streets of LA, and crossed over celebrities that had their souls kind of in transitional places were communicating with me. It it is called Los Angeles for a reason. There are a lot of Los Angeles hanging out in that city. But I didn't know any of this, I was just going through my awakening. So I would actually sit in my apartment at night and I would leave the space for people to come through and communicate with me. And it was just something I was doing on my own time. And then it shifted to I called my mom one night and asked her to send me a photo of the family tree that I knew I had going back 3 generations. I had made it when I was in middle school. So my mom sent me the 4 quadrants, and I would start sitting down at night with my ancestors and asking how I could help them. Because what I understood is our healing is the healing for 7 generations before and the generations still to come. So I knew that my own family was really having a hard time, and my friends were having a really hard time with what I was going through and experiencing. They couldn't quite grasp the awakening I was having. So instead, I relied on my ancestors and held space for them so they could help me get stronger in knowing that this was my path.
Mm. Yeah, that's very powerful. Ancestral healing is a big topic for me as well. And when you go through this spiritual awakening, it seems I haven't talked to anybody yet who's kind of like, and everybody I knew was going through it too. And so we just commiserated the whole time. No, that's not how it is. You just are by yourself on this road, and it's usually a dark road, and you're very confused and it's depressing. And it can also be just extremely uplifting and fascinating and a little scary, but there's usually not somebody in your immediate circle who you can actually say, and this happened, then the crows are talking to me, because, there's a lot of social stigma around mental health and things. And there's a fine line between having a spiritual experience and having it be accepted, and having other people say, well, she's gone off her rocker and she needs some help. And that's a line that I think really prevented me in the beginning from coming out with my story, because I was so concerned about that stigma.
Yeah. It's definitely something I've gotten to work through. And a
Hmm.
lot of friendships and relationships ended. And
Yep.
I also know those friendships and relationships were keeping me in my comfort zone and safe from who I authentically am. And once you understand magic and the universe and this world is different than I thought it was, for me, I could not close that door again. I couldn't ignore it. And if that meant people were leaving my life, as my grandmother would say, I hear her. She's like, Gega's into hate. Go with God. Like, go with God. Like, thank you so much for being in my life. And thank you so much for leaving my life and letting me step more into my purpose. Because, like, when I went through the awakening, it was very lonely. And I told God, if you get me through this, I will help whoever I am meant to help. as they go through their journey. I will write the book. I will do the things that I am meant to do so no one has to feel alone on this journey. And it's beautiful. I've seen some of my best girlfriends from high school who I'm still close with. Two of them, the last 2 years, have been going through massive awakenings. And while they didn't understand what I was going through, now I'm the phone call of like, hey, can you help me with what I'm experiencing right now? And being able to do that and being able to hand them my book and be like, here's a whole thing of tools for you is such a gift that I'm so glad I was willing to walk through the darkness.
100%. Yes. And I had a similar thing. It was kind of like, if you can just show me the way out of this, I will do the podcast. I will write the books. I will create the community. I will hold the space for other women. And I felt really called to do that. And I couldn't explain it to anybody why, how it felt. But now that I'm on the other side of it, it's like, okay, wow, that was something. And yeah, it's nice to be able to step into that calling and embrace that. And then all of a sudden, the world's shifting around you when you do that.
Yeah.
And people showing up to support you and to need what you have to say and what you are communicating out into the world. It's fascinating how it works because you think, no way the whole time, but it actually has a beautiful way of circling back.
Yeah. The first year or two that I was a Reiki healer, I was like, everyone needs to know Reiki. Mom, dad, you need Reiki. And then when I finally was like, Lauren, this isn't about them, this is about you. It gave the space that now, all these years down the line, they want to experience it. I go and visit. They're like, "Oh, are you going to bring your sound bowls with you?" Oh, like I taught my dad Reiki 1 and 2 a year or two ago because he wants to learn animal Reiki, and Reiki 1 and 2 is a prerequisite. So I'm like, "Okay, let me know when you're ready for animal now." And it was so interesting because we talked about chakras and auras in his Reiki training, and I'll never forget my dad said to me, "Oh yeah, I see auras." I was like, what do you mean you see auras? Because this is a man who, when I told him I was a medium, he said, oh, really? I thought you were a large.
Yep, that
So,
sounds
right, it's
about
like
right.
that kind of joke. So when he said I can see auras, I said, well, can you explain that to me? And he said, like around Grandpa, around Buzz, and I was like, Dad, you just named two people who are dead. What do you mean you see auras around them? And then I said to him, so you're telling me you're a medium? And he's like, no, 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 I'm not a medium. I just see these auras. So it also, I got to have the understanding because my mom's had similar things. Hers isn't auras, but she feels similar to me. They never felt safe to explore their own gifts because they weren't emotionally supported in their childhood. So it's like it was just continued to pass down until I was like, no, 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 the cycle breaks here because I understand it. So now I get to hold space for my parents having their own spiritual experiences, whatever they want to call it or not call it, but they're experiences. And it's really beautiful because I don't need to like claim ownership of it. And I don't need to say, you need to do it this way or you need to do it that way. It's like just holding that space and frequency for myself to feel safe, allow them to start feeling safe to have the experiences. And that's, the
Yes.
ancestors. If you work out here, it's going to happen.
Yes, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing when that happens. And it's true. You don't have to necessarily say, well, you're this or you're that. It's just creating that environment where you have overcome the blockade, right? And that they see that, and then they say, you know what? I actually never told you about this time that, and you're like, wait a minute, you mean to tell me that you too, but you just never, shared that? And I think it's a generational calling to overcome and thereby heal for all of the past generations that suppressed it or struggled with it or suffered as a result of it. That I think is happening a lot right now. And it's a very, very important role that we're being called to do.
Yeah, I feel so grateful. I genuinely feel so grateful. And the more I can see the shifts within, my family or my best friends from high school, like I don't live in New York anymore. I'm based in Miami. And when I go to New York and see my community shifting, I understand, like, okay, this is how the ripple effect works. Like, I don't need to be here. My energy is here. My energy is planted in these certain places, just holding the frequency. I always say, be the lighthouse. Let the ships come to you. Because I used to, right at the beginning, it's like, oh my God, I got to go to this one, this one. No, be the lighthouse. The ships are going to show up. Let them come to you when they're ready. And it's a beautiful thing when you could just be that light and ripple that vibration out.
Very well said. Yes. Well, for those that are curious about your Holy Fire Reiki and the other practices that you offer, where can they find you?
You can find me on my website, laurencourtneyheals.com. I'm also on Instagram and Threads at I am Lauren Courtney.
Okay,
And then, of
great.
course, I've got the book, Glow Up Your
Yes.
Chakras, From Medicated to Meditated, available on Amazon as well.
Yes, and you can find Lauren's book in on bookshop.org, where I have a list of all of the books of all of my guests that have been on Women's Dream Enlightenment, including my own. You can find them on there. And yes, I will put the rest of your links in the show notes. Well, thank you for being here today, Lauren, and sharing your story. I think it's very important what you're doing out in the world, and I look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? Be sure to subscribe to make sure you never miss an episode. Head over to my YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button as well to be part of my growing community. Are you ready to take the next step in your spiritual journey? Don't miss out on the new Dream Empowerment programs. Unique opportunities for you to unlock your inner wisdom, discover your authenticity, align with your higher self, and bring abundance into your life. If you'd like your dream or awakening story featured on my show, submit it today. Your dreams have the power to inspire and enlighten other women on their journey. Visit meganmary.com to find out more.